there, welcome to this episode of Author Success Show. In today's episode, we have the power couple, Jana and Dan. Jana Scholten was diagnosed in the year 2000 with multiple sclerosis. She shares her powerful story of becoming free from multiple sclerosis in her new best-selling book, Enchanted Wellness: How to Grow from Hating Disease to Loving It. And Dan Junkins was diagnosed in 2017 with acute myeloid leukemia with only weeks to live. But he now lives a vital, healthy, and thriving life 5 years later. He now shares his empowering story in his newly published book, Peacocks Poison and Leukemia: A Life of Vibrant Health. So if you have a life-changing experience and you want to know how can you convert that into a book so that you can share your message with millions of people, then this episode of Author Success Show is for you. Hey Dan, hey Jana, welcome to Author Success Show.
Hi there.
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you both together on this episode because very rarely we have two authors coming together on this show. So thank you for making this happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you have such incredible stories which you've now converted into books. And both of you launched your book at around the same time. So who actually initiated this idea of becoming an author and who started writing their book first?
Oh, well, I don't know if it was my idea, but I started over a decade ago, honestly. And our business mentor suggested like having our books be close together, essentially. Yeah.
That's such a good advice because that way, there is so much to learn from each other, right? So that's really nice.
Yeah.
So how did you like the idea, Dan? Once Jana started her process, were you also compelled to write your book? What was the thought process in your mind?
So I met Jana in 2005. I knew that she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2000. So I was meeting her right around the time when she was having some pretty incredible breakthroughs. I myself came from a pretty artistic family. My dad was a professor and a writer, and he'd written many books himself. My mother was an artist. So I'd always been wanting to write, but my father and my mother were such very good artists that I just thought I'll never be as successful as they are. So the idea of writing was always there, but I certainly was supportive of Jana, but I never really took the initiative until I myself was diagnosed many years later, like in 2017. Yeah.
With cancer.
Yeah.
With leukemia. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally see this with many authors. When they go through a life-changing experience, that is when they discover their why and they commit themselves to write their books. I think coincidentally, it happened in both your lives. You had leukemia, you were going through multiple sclerosis, and you could be playing the victim role and really suffering. I'm sure the journey would have been not easy, but whatever helped you to recover, you decided to keep that as your reason to write your books, right? So what was the driving force for you? What was the big why?
I would say like so many people over the years just kept saying, you really need to write a book. You need, and you really need to write a book. Really, just like, once you hear it like 100 times, you're like, okay, already. I mean, that was part of it. And then I would say the COVID shift, being laid off from my normal job.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's a blessing, right? In disguise.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, it wouldn't have happened if that hadn't happened. So, I know it is a blessing because I've always been wanting to do it. And now I had this opportunity. So I was like, okay, I might also do it. I might also do it now, So, yeah.
So I feel, Jana, a lot of people recover from disease conditions, but the way you did is so heroic. By this, what I mean is your doctors told you that you cannot be walking in some time, in a few years, but you decided to become a triathlete, right? So you participated in triathlons, you did things which people who are, having general fitness would not even, most people would not attempt. So what made you become this high achiever? Like, did you go through some inner work? Did you have somebody to coach you? What actually helped you to think in a very different way?
Let's see. Well, I mean, that is true. I should be in a wheelchair by now. And I mean, I was diagnosed in March of 2000, and that's when I was diagnosed with MS and was told I'd be disabled within 10 years. So I decided to really, just take life full on. And I became a vegan triathlete and a meditation guru, and I visualized my way into true health. And I'm in benign status today. I'm drug-free and I'm a healthy endurance athlete. And really my athletic passion was really triggered when the doctor said, you'll be disabled within 10 years. Growing up, it was the only thing I was good at, or at least that I thought I was good at, because I won like a free throw contest when I was 10 in the entire state I grew up in Iowa. And it was like my saving grace. So when he said, like, 10 years, you're going to be like in a wheelchair, I was like, oh my God, like, you can't take that away from me. That's the only thing I'm good at. And well, if that's the case, because I believed him, I better do everything I can possibly do. And then it just popped in my head. Probably, I'm not sure if triathlons were popular back then, but it was just like, I need to do a triathlon. And it was completely unreasonable because I didn't know how to swim.
Oh my God.
It's I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, essentially. And it wasn't a priority because it was hard, not much water where I grew up. And my parents didn't think it was important. So so I learned how to swim in my 30s. But I did my first triathlon, not knowing how to swim very well, but just thank God I were geared for beginners. So that was, so it was just really because fitness was my passion. And even though I wasn't like a mega athlete, I never ran over 3 miles or biked over 10 before doing a triathlon. And then I, went on to do all these, like I biked in the Swiss Alps for MS and all fundraisers for MS, Multiple Sclerosis Society. And I just did them all because I had this timeline of potentially losing my physical ability. And I'm actually really grateful I did, because I never would have gone to Switzerland. I'd have trained my butt off for all these things, So they were really great experiences, and I'm really grateful I did it. And it was challenging, especially since I did experience MS back then. So on and off symptoms here and there. And anyway, but I just pushed through them. I was pretty stubborn, to be honest. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. This is so inspiring, because I'm in my 30s. I cannot swim. And I keep telling myself my parents should have put me in swimming classes as a kid, but you just proved it that it's never too late. And I'm going to enroll this summer. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not too late. It's such a great sport. So
right. Dan, what about you? When you were diagnosed with leukemia, what were some of the things that helped you, and what was the supports? Of course, you had Jana, such a shining example beside you, but then how did you cope with things, and how did you turn around your life?
Well, I would say that one of the most profound things, one was like the shock and awe of being diagnosed with leukemia was just, it kind of froze me for about a day. There's no history in my family of blood cancers, so we still don't know what really was the source of it, but we had to deal with it. And so for me, the biggest inspiration was Jana, knowing, I'd been with her for 13 years prior to that, and I'd watched her grow and go through the drugs and then get off the drugs and then go to a vegan diet, and then she was really sick, and then she went through the diet, and then she went through the process of getting off the drugs, and I was just like, wow, she did it. She's symptom free, MS free, drug free, and she's been in benign status for like 13 years. I'm like, if she can do it, then I can do it too. And mine was an acute version of leukemia, meaning I literally had like 2 weeks left to live. At the time, I didn't know that. I just thought I'd gone through the flu. But when they said that, I just was like, oh my God. But then, there's the first 2 days of being in shock, and then finally letting myself take it all in. And I was just in this very quiet meditative space the night before I was going to get the chemo. And these words came into my head, which were, dive into uncertainty with courage and surround everyone with love. And it was a mantra, and it's been my motivating mantra ever since. And, what causes those words to come in? I think a lot of it had to do with my mother and father's background and influence on me and my brother and my sister, and really reading and writing stories to us all the time as kids growing up. They would read at our bedside. And so for me, that provoked this memory of reading something about a peacock. Now, why that provoked it, I don't know, but it was driving me. And in fact, it was an essay on the distinct spiritual paths in the Hindu religion, which talks about dealing with a poisonous plant on a pathway of life. One way is to just remove the plant. That's one way to deal with problems in life. You just resolve, go and move on. This another way is to actually get to the root of the problem and understand the source of it, get to the root of the plant, you remove it. And the third way is the way of doctors. They transform it into medicine. They transform that poison. But then the fourth way is the way of the peacock, which actually eats it and ingests it like it's sustenance, like it's strength in it, and it creates its beauty from it. And so for me, it was just sort of like this inspiring moment when I read that the night before getting the chemo, which is the strongest chemotherapy they prescribe in the cancer world. And so I took on being a peacock with relation to my chemo, and it really was inspiring for me. It was like a story that I resonated with it. It really inspired me. And so I was intrigued by it, and as well as encouraged by it. And the other interesting thing is that I actually gained 25 pounds during the chemotherapy.
People
I couldn't
lose
stop
weight,
eating.
right?
Usually they told me I was going to lose weight, I was going to lose my taste, I was going to lose my smell. And none of that happened. I actually couldn't stop. So it was fascinating. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I never had any issue.
It was the peacock thing.
It was the peacock thing, I think.
Yeah, I'm so glad you remembered that story from your childhood, and now that has actually been used in your book as well. Peacocks, Poison and Leukemia. That's so amazing.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you guys started writing, how was your process like? Were you sharing notes with each other every day? Did you have your fixed writing rituals? What worked for both of you?
It's a great question. Why don't you go?
I mean, I used a lot of my journals from the past to, and because I started so long ago, and then I had journals from before that, kind of to help provoke my memory of what it was like when I was living with MS. And then, oh yeah,
It's a great course.
I took a course at a local writing. It's called Grub Street, but and I know I thought like, oh, I need to become a writer. So anyway, after one course, I was like, I don't want to be a writer.
Yeah, an author and writer are two different kinds of people.
Yeah, I didn't really know that, but I mean, I had a background in PR and marketing. I'm like, I can write, but it's more like who, what, where, when, how, why, how. It's like the basics of a story and a pitch. And so I knew I just needed help, so I sought out some freelancers essentially to help me organize the story and then act more like a ghostwriter for putting my story together and making it interesting.
Wow.
So yeah,
I will say that I kind of dropped in on her writing quite often, because sometimes when you do that, you can lose your personal voice in your
Mm.
writing, like when you give it over to somebody
Yeah.
else. So
Yeah.
I noticed that her voice was getting lost. So I really wanted to make sure I kept, doing that. But I kept would rewrite something and say, what do you think? And you'd be like, yeah, that actually works for me. Or no, that doesn't work. So it was great to collaborate with her.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I was grateful to have a writer in my back pocket and house. I didn't know that, I mean, because my writer was a little bit over the top kind of writing, and because he was used to writing a different genre. He's not used to writing memoir. So it made sense for what he wrote, but it didn't I was like,
your style. Yeah.
I was like, this is way too much, it was like, so Dan was like, he fixed all that. So it was great.
And if you notice the way she is with you and with other people, she's very casual, laid back, kind of conversational. And that's really, I was trying to drive towards that in the book to capture that about Jana,
Jana, from what you just said, I learned 2 important lessons, which I think I should talk about right now. Firstly, you don't need to be a fantastic writer to write your book. You can take help. It's absolutely okay to ask for help. Because an author's job is to just share their message through their book. Let somebody else write if you don't want to. So that's one thing. The second thing, again, a lot of authors make this mistake. When they work with a ghostwriter, they think, I have given the task to somebody else. I have outsourced it. Now I don't have to look back. On the day of publishing, I'll just hit the publish button. But there are so many things. You need to keep going back and checking if they are doing what you want them to do. And it's great that Dan was also able to chime in and give his inputs and help you with the rewrites, because unless it feels that it sounds like you, it will have that small hint of inauthenticity. But you did not let that happen, because you wanted to make sure that it is in your voice. So that's I'm sure that's something that authors should make note of. And when did you start writing, Dan? Did you wait for Jana's book to be over, or did you start writing in parallel?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, what's intriguing for me was by helping her do her writing and start that, it started pricking in me like, oh, maybe I should start to write, but I didn't know what to write about. Like, I didn't think my life was interesting enough. So I don't know if the universe has a way of figuring things out.
Just give him cancer.
Give me, that was certainly a motivating factor. The other part was that I had friends, closest friends who are writers, and they kept saying to me, now you need to write, whether you like it or not, Dan, you need to start putting pen to paper. And so I started just going to a local cafe and just started writing. And just what I noticed was if I started to get into the mode of like, I have to do this, my writing was horrible. Yeah, I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was just like, da 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 da. I mean, it was just really dull. But the moment I got into just relax and just let myself write, that was when things would start to really flow. So I noticed when I could just relax and really just be at ease with things and not be nervous or feel like I've got to get it done, I noticed that my creative process really kicked in. And I realized there was relevancy to my past life, a lot of my past life. So I incorporated that into the book too. And I didn't realize that I would do that.
Did you ever compare your work with the legacy your parents had created, being wonderful artists? Did that pressure ever bother you?
I had to let it go. I thought I had to do with that. I started to, and I went, oh boy, this is not going the way I want it to go. And so I realized I had to not think about my mom's artwork or think about my dad's writings, because I knew I would just sort of start to get this writer's block. It would just I would start to shut down like, oh my God. So I realized that for me, I had to just sort of just let it go, so to speak, and just allow myself to just not put any kind of tension or pressure on myself. So it was, this is great. You're asking some really great questions we don't normally get. So I love this. Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to just reflect on what really worked. So it's because for you, when you're actually doing it, you may have not really realized what worked for you. But now looking back at the process, you can actually come up with so many learning points for other authors. So from what you just said, Dan, I understand that every author's writing style is unique, because some of the people who've come on Author Success Show say that I needed to have a strict outline, I needed to have a strict like agenda for the day, otherwise I wouldn't write. But your process was different. You wanted to have that freedom to write whatever came to you that day. And the other thing I learned is, you wrote from cafes, which is absolutely fine, and different people enjoy different environments to write, and you need to discover that by trying out a couple of things and realizing which is that that sacred spot to sit and write. And that actually also supports the writing in a way.
That's great that you said that too. Then I dabbled in some different modalities, like our business mentor recommended using otter.ai just to get words and thoughts down on paper. And I was just like, wow, this is fascinating. I never thought I would get into any technology, but it actually helped because it triggered memories. It got words down for me. And I'm like, okay, this is great. My father used this.
Is that a voice transcription software?
It's a voice transcription software. Yes. So you literally speak into your computer and it transcribes it into words on the page, and it was wonderful. And I will say that, one of the things I did remember about my father, he didn't talk about writing very often, but one thing he did say, he said, there are 3 R's to writing, Dan. He goes, it's reading. And then of course it's not an R, but writing. And then he said, the last one is the most important, is revision. He said, revise, revise, revise. So I thought that was very, very profound for me. And I think it worked. It was very true, because the final edition of my book is about 1/10 of what I'd written down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's absolutely fine, I feel, because see, unless you have a strict deadline that you need to finish a book in a month's time, it's absolutely okay to take that liberty to write all the thoughts that come to your mind, because it's not just to transform the reader's life, but it's also a journey of self-discovery when you write about what has happened in your life. So I feel it's a huge benefit for an author, more than the reader also sometimes.
I think the last thing I just say was that, and I think it was true for you, is really centering and grounding myself in the mantra of just diving into uncertainty with courage and surrounding myself and everyone with love. I mean, I really feel like that help was just an immense sort of freeing process for me to really like let it rip, let it go, and just, so that was very profound, and it still resonates true for me today. I don't know how it was for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dana spoke about her meditation, and you keep referring to your mantras. So I can see that you both are spiritually very grounded. And does your spiritual practice also help you in your work and your writing?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean,
would you like to share any ritual that you would recommend others to give it a try?
Well, meditation, and if not that, then at least yoga. And if you can't do that, then breathing, deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, or just breathing is the easiest thing anybody can do. Because I have a lot of friends that say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I can't sit there."
But you can breathe.
Like, can you breathe? Like, they're like, it takes 90 seconds. You breathe in 6, breaths, you hold it for 4, and you breathe out for 10. You do that a couple times a day, and it'll calm your amygdala down, which is the part of your brain that reacts unnecessarily to a lot of things, like your husband or your cat or your dog or whatever. It just calms that part of the brain down, so you don't react unnecessarily. So that's the easiest thing anybody can do, because it's 90 seconds.
Thanks for sharing that. So all you aspiring authors out there, before you start writing, please do some deep breathing, as Jana mentioned. And what about you, Dan? Do you have some specific mantras that you revisit and affirm every day, or how do you use them?
It's a great question. I would say that I was not into doing any kind of meditation for many years prior to meeting Jana. And I knew that she had adopted or taken on meditation and visualization techniques. So I just said, okay, I'll try it out. And I had been doing yoga prior to meeting her, and different types of yoga. So we started doing more and more yoga. Recently, in the past years, I've noticed that if I can find some practice that can calm me down, I'll do it. But I think that really having a calm, quiet space is really vitally important. So for me, my practice since I've been in junior high school through most of my life is running, long distance running.
Wow.
And it's been a wonderful sort of, I would say it is a meditation, because you go for long distances and repeating your steps, and you're just constantly running. And so for me, it's profound. And I notice also how well I feel in my own mind after exercising, and just the act of tiring out and exhausting the body has a wonderful quality to the rest of my life and the rest of the day. But I also think that after that, just doing some yoga and stretching, and then just meditating. So there's any and all those practices are great. I mean, I know that Jana has promoted the idea of just doing like walking meditations, where you could meditate while you're walking too. So those are just some things that I've done over the years.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You both mentioned about having a business coach for yourself, right? So was that for the business, the traditional business you were doing before, or you both have now established yourself as an author and you're helping out others who have had similar life experiences? So is this somebody who's helping you set up your new personal brand business?
Yeah, it's somebody who's helping start our new personal brand business. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, no.
Right. The reason I ask this is because, Jana, a lot of people go through life challenges and they figure out a way to overcome that challenge, and then they move on and just they carry forward their routine life. But you both paused,
exactly.
and you asked yourself, how can we use this experience to help others?
Oh, I mean, it started out with, we were like, well, I mean, we didn't even, that was part of the reason is, gosh, how did we?
We went through.
I mean, it was always, I think it was something you found online. It was like how to get your message to millions. And we were like, what's that? And then, yeah, it was.
Well, then she was affiliated with an organization for many years. She had done Toastmasters, and then she had joined the National Speakers Association of New England. And that's where you met Robbie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's our mutual connection.
Yeah.
But
so Robbie was an influencer, but then
he was an author. And then, I mean, a couple other people, and the speakers are always usually authors, and they're like, well, you should really write a book. And I'm like, why? And they're like, 'cause that's like your credibility, and that like validates you as a speaker, and all these things anyway. So, and as a business owner, and then I heard that from another business person, and then another business. And then I was like, okay, enough. I've heard it enough times. Three times. I'm like, okay, that's the universe going, okay, got it.
What makes me think is the reason you joined Toastmasters and the National Speakers Association itself could be because you wanted to share your message with a lot of people as a speaker. So by meeting these people who asked you to write a book, and who also your business mentor, would have actually helped you to take that message and convert it into a viable business also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really using the books sort of as the book is a distillation of what our future workshops and seminars will be. We're developing them as we speak. And really our commitment is to provide some hope and inspiration for those that are diagnosed with any kind of blood cancers or autoimmune diseases, that, having some kind of inspirational story or something that they can move towards can actually have a profound impact on their health and their own well-being and the quality of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are the plans that you have for the future? The book is now launched. It's become a bestseller on Amazon, and you were talking about your workshop. So, how is it that you want to touch so many people's lives? What is going to be your method to reach out to people?
Well, first, I mean, I think it was stick with online, like online group coaching, workshops and programs, and then eventually in-person retreats. Eventually, would like to do that.
Yeah.
So that's our plan right now.
Cool. Would you be doing some of these together?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, initially, I didn't think so. I'm like, well, my audience is different than your audience, and so I mean, I think their online programs will be separate, I think. And then maybe the retreats we could possibly do together.
Yeah.
And we're still figuring that all out. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, because everybody likes to identify with their thing.
Yeah.
Whatever if you're a triathlete, you're a triathlete, right? Yeah. If you're a cyclist, you're a cyclist. If you have this disease, you like to say, this is my disease. It's not your disease.
You own it, yeah.
Right.
You own it, but you shouldn't say you own it, because then your body will think that too.
Exactly.
But that's how we just like to identify with like-minded people, or people who have the same thing we do, kind of thing.
Because I see so much similarity in what both you people do. And that's why it could be probably very powerful when you do retreats together. And I'm telling this out of my personal experience. My husband is a relationship coach, and I help authors with publishing their books. So it looks like two very different businesses, right? But now we've started doing VIP days with some of his clients, and we both do it together because I help them identify, their, how do I call it, their divine gift, and how can they use it? Because that's what I do with my authors, right? I help them identify their divine gift and convert that into a structured book. So I help them do that. So sometimes your unique gifts can actually help each other's clients. So I would love to see how your business evolves and how you're able to touch millions of lives in the near future. So before I say goodbye, I just would love to hear one final word of thought from both of you to all the aspiring authors out there who are still hesitating to write their book.
That are still hesitating to write their book, that you said?
Yeah.
Just that you have a story to share, no matter if you think you do or not. You're good enough, and it's you can touch lots of people with your story, whatever that is, whatever your passionate area is. Then please share, because one story might touch somebody else. I mean, because when I was experiencing and sick with MS, I read Lance Armstrong's book about It's Not About the Bike, and had nothing to do with MS. That did him about his biking journey and and essentially how he beat cancer, this cancer that he wasn't supposed to beat. And that was to me, wow, if he can do that, then maybe there's hope for me too. I could beat MS. That was the first story, and it was had nothing to do with what just because I was a triathlete, I was drawn to that. And so yeah, you never know how you're going to touch somebody. That's the one thing I could say.
Yeah, well said. I think if a book has touched our lives, then it's our moral obligation to pay it forward by sharing our story also through another book. What about you, Dan?
So I think that, go ahead. So for me, I think that if you can discover the courage within yourself to put pen to paper, that makes all the difference in the world. It also makes you your unique you, despite what you might think. If you think that you're not unique, don't listen to your mind. You are unique, and you are unique the moment you put pen to paper. And the more you can really discover your authentic, real self, if you find that, it will show up in your writing. And that, I think, was the most profound thing that I noticed, was that the more I just allowed myself to let myself write authentically about my experience, that authenticity will show you as a unique, powerful person that people will want to listen to.
Wow. My takeaway is that just go ahead and do that first thing of putting your pen to paper or your fingers to your keyboard or whatever, because I think when authors look at when aspiring authors want to become published authors, they look at the entire process of publishing, which could be very daunting. But taking that first step is something that they can do. And as you rightly said, Dan, only when they start the process, they'll know how unique they are. So thank you both for being a part of this episode. And I would love you guys to share more about where can people find out about your work and your books.
Yes, so they can go to my website at www.danieljunkins.com, and they can just fill in their info, and they'll have access to everything. And then I also have a free PDF on the 10 best tips for a vibrant life that I can send out to people that hear about this.
You get that when you sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mine is Jana. I'll spell it because it's JanaScholten, janascolten.com. Yeah, I mean, I have 5 mindset hacks, and then also nutrition tips that people can take away that might help their health as well. So that's the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. I'm going to have all the links right below in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your wisdom as well as all these great resources that you just mentioned. It's such a pleasure to have you on Author Success Show.
Thank you.
And we're just so grateful for working with you, and just amazing results are showing up with working with you. So just thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.